Chilcott, the veteran. Bang!
Oh,
she hits it in the
foul.
corner.
Whoa.
Chilcott, the left-hand finish is good.
Chilcott underneath. Strong move. That's a 3-on-3 move.
That is. She's got it down pat.
For the three-pointers going, she shot more three-pointers in her college career than Steph Curry. And she's certainly going to be a threat.
And Chilcott with the 2.
Welcome back to Finance Friends, your personal seat at the table with leaders shaping the financial world. In this exclusive season, we meet with high-profile, incredibly successful athletes who achieve the greatest heights on the sports field and are now dominating the finance world. Today on Finance Friends podcast, we're excited to welcome someone who has achieved excellence in not just one, but 2 highly competitive arenas, Izzy Chilcott. Before stepping into the world of funds management, Izzy carved out an impressive career on the basketball court. She played college basketball in the United States at the University of San Diego before returning home to Australia, where she competed in the WNBL for a decade across multiple teams. Now Izzy is the director and fund manager at Centuria Bass Credit, who are a leader in real estate credit, managing $2.3 billion. Her journey is a true testament to discipline, adaptability, and dedication. We're thrilled to have Izzy on the podcast, sharing her story. Hi, Izzy. Welcome to the Finance Friends podcast. How are you today?
Good, thanks, Fabian. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming in. I've never met a professional basketball player before, so are you still playing?
No, I'm a washed up professional basketball player now, so those dreams are long gone.
Yeah, well, you've achieved those dreams, haven't you?
Yes, I'm very proud of what I've achieved on reflection, but now just enjoying golf when I can and running and all the other hobbies that I didn't have time for when I was playing sport.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine with your current work position, and also you mentioned you've got a young one.
Yeah,
probably don't have a lot of time to throw the ball around.
Time is limited, but I've over all the years I was playing professional basketball, I was working as well, so I am very used to time management and doing a lot with not much. So I'm just focusing on work and getting out there for my hobbies whenever I can.
Yep. So basketball, was it since you were really young? Did you play multiple sports and then were just good at basketball? Or?
A little bit. I've got 2 older brothers, so it's the classic story of just wanting to do whatever they do. I grew up on the Gold Coast and was very much into a lot of sports, anything that my brothers did. My family are all avid surfers. My mum actually started a surf school, so I grew up surfing and playing a lot of basketball. But I kind of got to the end of high school and was a little bit of a fork in the road where they wanted to keep competitive surfing or go down playing basketball a little bit more seriously. But getting a college or university education was always very important to me and always something I wanted to do. And I got the opportunity to go play basketball in the States at a college, so I got a U.S. scholarship. So decided to go down that route.
Wow, which university did you end up at?
University of San Diego. Like I said, I grew up on the Gold Coast, so I chose a school that was in a location as similar to the Gold Coast as I could find.
So San Diego's in California, is that right? South of LA.
Yeah, just on the border between California and Mexico. So yeah, it was a great experience. Loved it. Very thankful that I got to experience that.
Because college sport in the US is insane.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's almost bigger than the professional league because
100%.
The alumni that all went to that university are just still so in tune to the sport.
Yeah, like you said, it's bigger than professional sport in Australia. You know, the amount of money, viewership. I mean, America's just, supersized on everything, but college sport is huge, and to be a part of that was very cool, especially coming from, the Gold Coast where, there wasn't, the Suns I think they started after I went to college, so we didn't have a professional sports team on the Gold Coast. So get over there was very cool.
Yeah, because the Gold Coast has struggled with professional sports team, like the A-League team.
Yeah.
Dropped off, I think, the rugby league team.
Yeah, there's still the Titans.
They've sort of struggled.
Yeah, they've struggled. There was a NBL, a basketball team, men's basketball team. That's come and gone. And, it hasn't been a huge success, any professional sports on the Gold Coast.
So I'm keen to know how many people or how many women on the roster, as they would say in the US, or I don't know if they say that NFL, but at the university, was there like 3 teams or was there 15 or 18 players that made up I guess 5 that played regularly?
So at our school, there's just usually one team for every sport at the university. There was 12 or 14 on our team. Usually there's about 12 full scholarships and then maybe a couple, they call them walk-ons, which are just people that go to the school and try out for the team, or training players. We also had practice players, which were typically boys that went to the school that wanted to get a run out there with us. So, there was on most basketball teams, you kind of capped at 12 kind of suiting up and playing.
Yep. So can you share some insight into what it was like being a college basketballer? So what's your schedule?
Yeah. Like? I mean, it was kind of pretty full on, like university at any level or any country. You got a full-time course load, and then we're training kind of we might have one day off a week, and then you're training kind of 3 hours on court, a couple hours in the gym. Yeah, it's pretty intensive.
And traveling as well.
Traveling, yeah. There was a lot of traveling, games all over the country. So I like to say I've, spent 4.5 years living in the States. I've seen a lot of basketball stadiums and hotel rooms. I haven't seen a lot of, outside of that. But no, like I said, it was a great experience, and really glad that I got to do it.
Yep. And were you a regular in the team, or was it quite challenging to get a spot?
No, I mean, I was a starter, and I had a pretty successful career there. Like any athlete or any basketball player knows, you have your ups and downs in terms of court time and different things, but that kind of just goes hand in hand with playing basketball. But no, it was very good.
So what advice would you give to a young Izzy that's just going over to San Diego to play basketball on a scholarship?
I mean, I think just enjoy it. I was pretty, some people go over there and, really enjoy it, party hard and different things like that. I was pretty focused. I've always been pretty focused, and, education was really important to me. So I studied hard and I trained hard. I didn't have a lot of time for too much else, but I mean, I think I'm very happy with the experience I had, and I think I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. And to continue the scholarship, do you need to pass your subjects? There's a certain grade you need to get, or is that university dependent?
Yeah, you have to have a certain GPA to qualify to play, but it wasn't overly, it was basically had to pass at least 3 of your subjects or something to qualify. It wasn't really if you weren't showing up to class, you couldn't qualify, but yeah, that was it.
That was it. Yeah. And were there other sports teams that you sort of connected with, and was it common that the sports players of the university would hang out together?
Yeah, there was a lot of different sports. My school had kind of everything: football, volleyball, track, golf. All the sports like a lot of the schools do. And there was a lot of commingling amongst the athletes. I met a lot of people, and it was great.
Yeah. So, what did you study at university?
Finance. Well, they call it over there business administration, but majoring in finance.
Yeah. And what made you choose finance?
I think I kind of have a bit of an objective personality. Math. I was a lot stronger at math than I was at English. Just the black and white nature of it. So finance was it always appealed to me, and I kind of fell into it, and that's how it happened.
Yeah. So then you finished your 4-year course, was it?
Yep.
Yeah. So then can you share what your experience was after? that
Yep.
4-year period?
So I came back to Australia and started playing professional basketball in Australia. So in the WNBL, the Women's National Basketball League, I played for a number of different teams in the WNBL in Brisbane and Perth, and finished my career in Melbourne over a time frame of about 10 years. So did that. I was in an interesting position while I was playing professional sport. It was women's professional sport, so there wasn't, the pay wasn't really sustainable to both. Even though it was a full-time commitment, it wasn't necessarily a full-time wage. So I was working throughout that period as well.
Which is obviously extremely challenging. Did you have, were the businesses that you worked for, they obviously understood your commitment to sport and were quite flexible?
Yeah, I had some great employers during that time that enabled me to be able to juggle both sport and work career. I think during the time I was very critical on myself, that while I was doing both and able to juggle both, I never felt like I was excelling or being the best version or being the best that I could at either, which was hard. But in reflection, I'm really proud of what I was able to achieve both, in my sporting career and where my career has taken me to this point.
Yeah. So what's been the highlight of your sporting career?
I think one was the opportunity to go play in college. Probably not athletically, but in terms of experience and something I'm grateful for.
Life experience as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Sporting career. The last game I actually played was with the Melbourne Boomers, the grand final, the WNBL, which we won, which was a very
congratulations.
Thank you. That was a couple of years ago.
22, was
22.
it? Yeah.
So just to go out. My last game ever being a grand final, which we won, was a very special moment.
And did you know that at the time this was going to be your last game?
Yeah, I knew the whole seaon this was going to be my last hurrah, but I kind of joked they had to carry me off the court to make sure I didn't come back. But no, it was a really surreal moment and a great way to finish.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably because you'd been working throughout that period. It's a lot. Would you say it's a lot easier to transition?
Definitely. The adjustment, I didn't finish and try and have to find my, my passion in terms of what I wanted to do after sport. So that was a lot, I guess, of a softer transition. But that being said, I still really did struggle post sport, the routine and the competitive outlet and all those things that, embedded, or what you've been doing for, it was close to 20 years.
Pretty much your whole adult life.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of comes to a very sharp stop. And so it was a huge adjustment, but I was just lucky enough that I was already, progressed in my career. I knew what I wanted, I was already in a career. I wasn't trying to find myself outside of sport. So I was lucky in that aspect, but I can very much sympathise with those that play sport for however many years and just finish and then trying to find where their passion lies after that. It's hard.
What's next? Yeah. And so let's go talk about your career. Maybe share your current role and what you do at the moment and who you work for.
Yep. I'm a director and fund manager for a company called Centuria Bass Credit. So what we are is we're a non-bank lender for commercial real estate.
Okay, so let's break that down. When you say non-bank lender, because maybe some of our audience don't know what a non-bank lender is. Can you?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we provide loans to developers or borrowers for the purpose of purchasing or developing commercial real estate. Typically it's, for large-scale land subdivisions or a block of apartments. That's what I mean by commercial real estate. How we get those funds to provide to the borrowers is we raise funds, capital from high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals. Then we on-lend that to the borrowers. We charge borrowers interest rates and fees, which we then pass back to investors in the way of an income distribution. Yeah. So essentially we act like a bank, but instead of playing with, the bank's money, we're raising funds from individuals.
Yeah, because I think the definition of a bank is a deposit-taking institution, so you can have a bank account at Westpac, and then they'll use that money to on-lend. As you raise the capital from investors.
That's right.
Yeah. So why would a developer go to you, or why, for funding when they maybe can go to a bank?
It's a great question. There's no secret that we are more expensive than a bank. So I think that's the first thing people typically ask. But what we're able to do is provide really fast and flexible terms to our borrowers. So our borrowers are developers, might have 1 to multiple projects. So they're willing to pay a premium to get certainty of that capital, of those funds, in a shorter term time frame than a bank would be able to provide it to them. Also banks, because their deposit, their money comes from everyday deposits from people with bank accounts. There's very stringent rules on the types of loans they can provide
and
to
their
borrowers.
capital requirements for the bank, yeah.
Exactly. So we're able to be a lot more flexible. We're able to tailor our lending solutions to those borrowers that really fits and helps those borrowers be able to achieve their goals, and we work with those borrowers to be able to do that.
So in terms of your role, you obviously need to assess the risk of the development and what are the things that could potentially go wrong.
So I'm a fund manager. I kind of sit in between both the deal origination team that assess each of the loans, the borrowers, and manage those loans, and then the distribution team that raises the capital. We have 2 pooled diversified funds, about $700 million worth of discretionary capital, which we manage for investors. So I manage those pooled funds, the day-to-day operations of those funds, and really just ensuring the best outcome for those investors within that fund. So I'm a bit of a, you would say, generalist in, we have over 500 investors in these funds and we have over 60 assets. I kind of need to be across all of that to make sure we're managing the best outcomes for those investors.
Yeah. So if you were to invest in your fund, what are some things you need to be mindful of? Obviously, you mentioned a high return.
Yep.
Can you share some insight around what is the average return that an investor would normally receive for the pooled investment fund?
So we have a couple of different investment options. One of our funds is just purely first mortgage. So we hold security over the underlying property asset. If things were to go, if there was a default or we had to step in and take control of that asset, we have the downside protection of being able to sell that asset or that piece of land for the underlying value. But this investment is not risk-free. It's subject to the value in which you can abstract from that piece of that asset, that piece of land. So we can only recover to the extent which what's available to recover of the value of that real estate. So typically the return on a first mortgage is between 6 and 10%, depending on the asset.
Yeah.
And then we have another fund that has first and second mortgage exposure. So second mortgage is just the subordinated after that first mortgage sits behind the first mortgage in terms of priority and repayment. And you can expect a bit higher premium for that type of investment because it's up the risk curve, say 8 to 12%.
And obviously that return will depend on where the RBA cash rate is as well.
Yeah. It's typically linked, all our loans to our borrowers are linked cash rate plus a margin. So if we think of first mortgage, it's typically kind of RBA cash rate plus 4 to 5, and then anything behind that, second mortgage is, you'd say, 6 to 8 type of range.
Yeah. So how do you keep on top of all the assets?
It's not. We have a big team at Centuria Bass and some really high quality individuals that manage these loans and have extensive experience both managing and originating. So it's a team effort, but being across each deal and early intervention and early management of a loan when it needs it is is really key to being able to recover capital, but also extract as much value out of the loan and asset.
Yeah, and obviously maybe share some synergies that you've learnt from playing basketball, both professionally but also at college, that's helped you in your career today?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many attributes that sport teaches people in a professional capacity, playing sport at any level. And the easy ones are, teamwork, resilience,
And time management?
time management,
yeah.
absolutely. Performing under pressure. Something that resonates mostly with me is just being able to expect the most from myself and expect a really high quality of expecting a really high quality from not only from myself but my teammates or my colleagues.
Yeah.
That's really important. I think finance obviously can be a very high pressure environment, and playing professional sport, that's an environment I'm comfortable in. And there's been a lot of times where I think my background has held me in good stead in my professional career.
Yeah. And are you still involved in basketball today?
No, besides being a watcher, an enjoyer of the sport, I'm not involved.
Yeah. Do you see yourself getting back into the basketball world, or is that door closed?
I think that door's closed for me. I'm happy just to be a spectator and a fan of the sport.
Yeah, and the sport seems to be growing globally.
Yeah, especially the women's side of the game. I don't know how familiar you are with some of the players in the US, Caitlin Clark and the Caitlin Clark effect, but the game has grown so much over in the States, and hopefully that translates to viewership in Australia. It's always been a bit puzzling for me. Australia, in terms of our women's national team, has kind of been top 2 or 3 ranked in globally for years and years. We have a really strong national competition, the WNBL, but we've always just lacked the viewership, the sponsorship, the investment that you would expect for such a high quality product.
Is that just the nature of there's just so many sports in the country?
I don't know, to be honest. I think basketball is having a little bit of a resurgence in Australia in terms of the NBL, definitely. I hope that translates over to the WNBL. And I mean, no way having to go at AFLW or Super Netball or anything like that. These athletes are very impressive also, but the WNBL has been such a strong and great product for a long time, but it just doesn't. It's not really at the same level that even, like I said, AFLW or the Super Netball or anything is at the moment. So I would love to see the game in Australia, women's game in Australia, grow and develop into, follow suit with.
Yeah. How do you think that will happen?
I think exposure is one thing, media exposure, sponsorship, obviously. But it just takes time. I think we kind of have to keep just chipping away at building the game, building our reputation, getting out into the community, showing that, there is this great product being the WNBL, and get people along.
Yeah, because basketball for children or kids is massive. Like,
yeah. I think
most. My niece just told me she's 9 and she's made it into the under-12s team, and she's all excited. So
I'm pretty sure it has the highest participation rate in juniors in Australia. I think I might just be making that stat up.
That's right, we'll go with it.
Yeah, let's go with it. So it's interesting that it's so high at the junior level, but support at the professional level isn't, doesn't follow suit with that. But hopefully time will change, and I would love to see the WNBL into a really high quality and high viewed sport in the future, and these athletes getting paid full-time wages to compensate them for the time and commitment.
So how many Australian women are in the WNBA in the US?
Oh, I think we have over 10 now.
Yeah.
We've always had really high representation in the WNBA, and not just participating, or not just, kind of players at the end of the bench. These are really high quality and important players in the WNBA. So, I mean, I expect that, we have a lot of good juniors coming up, and that's just going to grow and increase the strength of our national team.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it continues to grow, and maybe if we can win, some medals at the Olympics, I think that always gives a bit of a boost over the next 4 years.
Yeah, I would love to see Australia get back on the back on the gold medal podium. We've consistently got silvers and bronze, which is, an amazing accomplishment. But
comparing to the US, it's very hard to compare.
It is hard to compete with the US, but we're getting closer, and I expect to be a very strong rivalry in the future, and hopefully we can pip them at some point.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thanks for sharing. Also, I want to touch on, there's not a lot of women in funds management, so you maybe share some experience about, being a leader in funds management as a lady, and because it can be obviously quite challenging to get to the level that you're at. And I don't know how you manage your time and play professional sport, do your job, and also a mother. Mm-hmm. I struggle to get out of bed to go to the gym. So,
yeah, I think especially in real estate credit, there's not a lot of female representation in real estate in Australia, and not a lot in finance in Australia. So to combine the two, it's even less. I think I'm very self-motivated, and while there's not a lot of women, this has also given me a lot of opportunities in my career, where there's they've required women representation, and I've been there to be able to step up and provide that in certain circumstances. I don't know why there's not a lot of women in finance or in executive positions or director positions, senior management positions. Something I would love to see, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think in terms of myself, I've always been very, very motivated and very, I'd say, comfortable in male-dominated spaces. So that's not necessarily for all women, but I would love to see changes where more representation at those higher levels, for sure.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing, and hopefully we can see some more women represented in senior positions, especially like you said, real estate credit. I don't know too many women that are in that field, and definitely not at the seniority that you're at. I just want to sort of go towards the end of the discussion and just maybe share how you got to where you are. Like, what was your first job, and maybe just a quick timeline of your career?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I finished college and was playing WNBL or basketball around different teams around Australia, and I knew I had to start my career somewhere. I would say I did a few different odd jobs for different companies along the way, but my first really foray into a corporate professional sense was I worked for Deloitte. I was a little bit older at this stage because I had been playing basketball. I think I was 25, and a lot of my colleagues were grads, and it was a funny environment. I think I really struggled because I felt in the role and the team I was in, promotions and different acknowledgements was more based on tenure rather than merit. And as a professional athlete, that's something I really struggled with, people not, performing or not really caring about their output, and not, if you did perform really well or you were really great at your job, there was no ability to kind of be recognised for that. So that was a bit of a reality check, realising that, the feedback that you get in sport, you train well, you play well, is instant. You rewarded with more court time, or, it's very visible, the reward or
the opposite. If you're not performing, then you're out of the team.
Exactly. And people, really take pride in their, their ability and their work when you're in a professional sporting team or environment. Where, corporate work, I couldn't understand that people didn't really care about their output and, were just kind of going through the motion. So I, stayed there a couple of years. And
So what were you doing at Deloitte? What was the
I
role?
was on a seconded to a bank doing it was a Royal Commission
remediation.
work. So I mean, it wasn't overly, it wasn't an environment where you really had the opportunity to, perform or
Really be challenged.
and things. So I didn't last there too long, but from there I stumbled into working for a company called MaxCap Group, who's another non-bank lender. And that's where at the time it was a smaller company, and now they've had a massive growth and were bought by Apollo Global Management. So, a pretty significant partner. But that's where my first exposure into real estate credit, that was close to 10 years ago. And
So what were you doing at MaxCap at that point?
it was a little bit of a kind of an operations portfolio management role, which suited me. I think the way, again, it was a little bit more of a generalist role, which kind of suits my personality or the way I even played basketball, where I was a little bit, each team has their superstars, but then also you need kind of role players and glue guys, I guess, to make a successful team. And that's kind of how I saw myself at MaxCap in this particular role. But through there, I think there was even times people would say I was, to a point, aggressively ambitious in terms of, I'm always trying to, progress my career or learn more or take on more responsibility. So I kind of did different roles at that company, and that led me about close to 5 years later to Centuria Bass Credit and the position I'm in now. And I started at Centuria Bass as an associate director in investor relations, so a little bit more on the investment management side and assisting investors and capital raising. But now I've transitioned more into the fund management role and managing stakeholders both internally and externally.
And Centuria Bass has had exceptional growth over the last, since how long have you been there for?
I've been there close to 4 years, and it's had exceptional growth. Like you said, it's a really, exciting place and an incredible company. And when I started, we have the original two founders who founded Bass Capital, and they went into partnership with Centuria Capital, who's an ASX listed company, and formed Centuria Bass Capital. Centuria Bass Credit, and we've had exceptional growth over the last 4 or 5 years, and now have $2.3 billion under management, and have big plans for future growth as well. So it's a very exciting time and company to be a part of.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing. I don't have any other questions for you. I love the conversation. Thank you for sharing, your story, and obviously one thing. Like, as a listener and someone that's never played professional sport, I'm just thinking how challenging it would be to be a professional athlete, but also have to almost self-fund that and still work.
Yeah.
And balancing both.
Yeah, it was really challenging, but I mean, I was extremely passionate about both. On one hand, it was in some way a blessing. I think a lot of athletes, while you dedicate so much time to your sport or your craft, you often have a lot of free time at the end of the day to then go home and think about the mistakes you made in a game or the mistakes you made at training or whatever. It can be a slippery slope in terms of the mindful or, running through that in your head. For me, I went to training, I had a game, and I was leaving as soon as it finished to go to my job, and then crank out a few hours of sitting behind a desk or whatever it might be. I didn't have time to dwell on different things. And I mean, that worked for me because I was present at basketball when I had to be there, and then I'd go and have this mental outlet when I went to work later. And for me, it felt like while it was demanding and a struggle at times, it kind of was an outlet for both, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Ted Richards, who we had on the show on the Finance Friend podcast, I'm not sure exactly what episode it was on, but maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, and he shared the same thing. It's like, you're playing football and then next you're working, so you're not thinking about football anymore.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to football, you can focus on football.
Yeah.
And which is, really, I think it makes a difference. The last question I've got for you, because we hear it a lot about teenagers or young professionals getting homesick.
Yeah.
Did that affect you at all? Did you miss surfing on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, when I was in the States, I definitely had moments of being homesick. Like I said, the times I was homesick was the times I wasn't busy, or, I was at home in my dorm room or whatever it was, and I just kind of would sit there and think. I think I just tried to appreciate what a great experience it was, and, I was very lucky. My parents came over and visited me every year, so I was never, too far away from a visit. But, it's challenging. I was 17 when I left Australia and moved over there. I was very young. There was definitely some challenging moments, but for the most part, I was pretty busy with training and schoolwork and things like that. Didn't have too much time to dwell on it.
And how about playing when you came back to Australia and played in the WNBL?
Yeah.
Because you played all around the country. So did you get that element of homesickness as well, or less because you're a bit more mature and you still got to see your family quite regularly?
Less so than when I was in the States. I think I was never homesick when I was over here, I think, because it always felt so much closer than another country. There was definitely, I would say, the biggest thing playing in Australia is all the sacrifices I had to make in terms of, like, missing weddings or friends' birthday parties or whatever, holidays, or things that I sacrificed to play in a season that not everyone, I had a lot of friends outside of the sport as well. But I was always very appreciative of the ability to play at that level and the experiences I got, that I tried to think of the positive rather than what I was missing out on.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to leave the conversation by saying all our guests talk about the success they had, whether it be the premiership, and the best part of that is the reunion. Yeah. So you're looking forward to, do you do a 5-year reunion, an annual reunion, a 10-year reunion?
That's a good question. We haven't done anything or have anything planned. I'll have to suggest that to some of the girls, but nothing in plans. A lot of the players that I won that championship with are still playing, so they're probably not thinking about a reunion yet. They're still, trying
Maybe
to win.
You need to do the 10 years. They'll be retired by then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll get back to you on that one.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Izzy. Thanks for being a guest on the Finance Friend podcast. I've really enjoyed the discussion, and all the best with your career ahead of you.
Thanks, Fabian. Thanks for having me.
Sounds great.
Thanks for listening this week. Stay tuned for our next episode and keep up to date with us by following the Finance Friends podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Plus, connect with us and our guests over on our LinkedIn page, all linked in the show notes.
Disclaimer: this podcast exists for informational and entertainment purposes only. The personal opinions of the speaker and guests do not represent the view of any other party. If this recording contains reference to financial products, that reference does not constitute advice nor recommendations and may not be relied upon.